Hello, High Plains, and welcome back to a very special episode of High Plains Media News. Today, I have the pleasure of standing next to
James Talarico.
There we go. Mr. Talarico, could you tell them who you are?
Yes, my name is James Talarico. I have the honor of serving as state representative for House District 50 in Central Texas, but really excited to be up here in the Panhandle helping Democrats get out the vote for this important election in November.
Absolutely, perfect. So I have a few questions that I have for you specifically, because when I looked into you, you seem to just be very bold about talking about Texas theocracy.
Yeah.
And so for those who don't know at home, what is a theocracy?
Yeah, so theocracy, in my opinion, is the most dangerous form of government, because the only thing worse than a tyrant is a tyrant who thinks they're on a mission from God. And there are forces in Texas that are trying to turn our beloved state and our beloved country into a theocracy. You've probably heard about Christian nationalism, which is the movement to impose a certain kind of Christianity on everybody in our state and in our country, even those who don't identify as Christians and those who belong to different faith traditions. And so that's exactly what we see with the Taliban in Afghanistan. It's what we've seen with theocratic governments around the world throughout history. And so it's up to us, those of us who are Christian, those of us who are not, those of us who belong to other religious faiths, to stand together in defense of democracy.
That's a great answer. And so, from what I understand as well, you were raised Christian and from a and still believe in the teachings of the church.
That's right.
And as a government official, could you tell me, is there any place for Christianity or spirituality within the role of government, or should church and state, as stated, be completely separate?
Yeah.
And if so, what role is that?
Yeah, such a great question, and we could spend hours just unwrapping the relationship between religion and politics. So as you mentioned, my granddad was a Baptist preacher in South Texas, so on the complete opposite end of the state from where we're at right now. And he taught me from a very early age that Jesus gave us two commandments: love God and love neighbor. And so Christianity as a religion is both spiritual and political, because politics is just another word for how we treat our neighbors. And so my faith is what motivated me to become a public school teacher. It's what motivated me to run for office. It's what motivates me every day at the state capitol to work on behalf of Texans, passing good public policy through the state house and the state senate. And so, what we've seen in the state capitol is some lawmakers try to impose Christianity on others against their will. And in my reading of the gospel and in my faith in Jesus, I reject Christian nationalism, because it's not loving thy neighbor, it's controlling thy neighbor. And so my faith leads me to commit myself to the project of a multiracial, multicultural democracy where we can all freely love God and fully love our neighbors.
Excellent question or answer. Another one would be, oh, I'm sorry, I had it for just a second. Nope, just came back to me. So another one would be for those in the Panhandle area, the Christian faith is very big here. The Christian faith in the government is very big here. So for those who are headed to the polls that want to be good Christians, do you have a message for them in a way to be loving?
Yeah.
Like you're saying about.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, our scriptures are pretty clear about the things that we should prioritize as Christians. We should feed the hungry, we should serve the poor, we should heal the sick, we should visit the prisoner, we should welcome the stranger. And in my reading of the two platforms between the two parties, the Democratic Party is much more closely aligned to the teachings that are found in the New Testament. And when I open my Bible, I see 0 verses about abortion. I see 0 verses about gay marriage, but I see 2,000 verses about economic justice. And so I'm not advocating for a progressive Christianity. I'm advocating for a biblical Christianity, to go back to our scriptures and find out how we as Christians are supposed to act in the world. And Matthew 25 is probably the best place to start. and it outlines some of those actions that I just mentioned. So when Christians go to the voting booth this November, I think they should ask themselves that simple question: what would Jesus do? And in my opinion, Jesus would want us to vote for policies that are going to help the poor, help the sick, help the stranger, help the prisoner, help those who are pushed to the side. And that's why I'm voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in this upcoming election.
Okay, I remember you talking earlier, I saw a video today, you talking about the SCOZs, about what he said, what would Jesus do on the bracelet.
That's right.
Very funny to think about those.
Yeah,
and
it's been a while.
It's been a while. So I have a couple more questions. So what would you have, any message to a person who might be watching this who is working multiple jobs, is having, a hard time making ends meet? They don't feel like they have the time to educate themselves about what's going on in the political atmosphere, and they feel like they have even less time to be here involved in the political atmosphere. Would you have any hope or any message for them?
Yeah, I know politics is off-putting. I work in politics as an elected official, and so I can tell you it's difficult work, and it's not always pleasant, and sometimes it can get a little dirty. But people throughout our country's history have fought and died for this right of ours to participate in the democratic process. So we have a moral obligation to show up in November and make our voices heard, even if we don't care for politics, because people's lives are at stake. People's lives depend on the policies that will be passed by elected officials from the city council to the state house, all the way to the White House. And so for those that are trying to figure out how they're going to cast their vote, I would recommend they do their own research. There are some great kind of nonpartisan resources like Ballotpedia, like the League of Women Voters, who put together kind of a summary of where all the candidates stand. And then, at least for the presidential level, I'd encourage people to tune in on September 10th, when we're going to have former President Trump and Vice President Harris debating on the same stage with no filter, and we'll be able to hear directly from them where they stand on these issues, and hopefully that will help people make an informed decision about who to vote for in November. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we're all done. All right, well, that was my four main questions, and I really appreciate getting to talk to you. It was a pleasure, nice to meet you.
This has been a High Plains Media exclusive interview. On August 31st at the Amarillo Civic Center Grand Plaza, a major fundraising event, Democracy in Action, supporting the Potter-Randall Democrats, the 134 PAC, and the Panhandle Democrats. The event brought together key political figures, activists, and the community with the goal of addressing four crucial areas of democracy: reproductive freedom, healthcare, education, and labor rights. The event's keynote speakers included Texas State Representatives James Talarico and Vicki Goodwin, both hailing from Austin. Representative Talarico, a former public school teacher and notable advocate for education reform, highlighted his legislative work, which has aimed to improve Texas education, reduce prescription drug costs, and protect reproductive rights. Attendees also heard from several influential speakers, including the Women of Amarillo's Reproductive Freedom Alliance, emergency room physician Dr. Frederick Pogue, and Union Representative John Roberts. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of High Plains Media News. I appreciate the opportunity of getting to speak to Mr. Talarico one-on-one. If you'd like to see more content just like this, be sure to follow us on social media like Facebook and Instagram, so that way you can see sneak peeks on upcoming stories and events. As well, be sure to leave a like and share, and leave a comment about what you thought about today's video. It all comes to help us out. And as always, until next time, take care, High Plains.